Hi, this video is on how to pass GCSE English Language reading. We're going to have a look at an important thing about quotes, then we're going to show a sample answer with a good quote, moving on to what makes a quote valuable, how to analyse, we're going to break down an answer, then we're going to have a look at when multiple quotes work and an example of using more than one quote in an answer. Okay, an important thing to note is that it's not the number of quotes you use, it's the power of the language within it. Oftentimes, students will give these really simple answers where they'll just mention the language techniques. They'll tend to mention as many language techniques as possible without really giving any analysis. So, the writer used a metaphor, the holiday was a nightmare. This shows they were scared of the holiday. So they've obviously chosen a quote there that they don't know how to really explain it. They've just said what technique it is, but haven't given any depth. This would be about level 3, pushing on to level 4 kind of grade answer. But this is what you need to kind of try and build towards. This was just a sample one that I wrote. It's not perfect, but just to give you an idea. So I use this quote: "The memories of the holiday home is a whirlwind of terror." I chose this because one, I know that it's a good solid technique. It's it's a metaphor, okay, and it's got some good words that I can talk about that talks about the writer's feelings. So this is the answer. The writer uses a range of techniques portraying a negative view of their past holiday experiences. The memories of the holiday home is a whirlwind of terror. The use of the metaphor comparing the holiday to a whirlwind shows that holiday was a negative experience. Okay, so I'd say that's attempting to kind of explain it here. But then I want to go into a little bit more depth. So I'll mention the other words that are in play there. I'd say the noun whirlwind has connotations of an uncontrollable, destructive force of nature because that's how I interpret it, which makes a holiday seem like a tragic and unavoidable event because whirlwinds are, by nature, quite unavoidable unless you have some kind of early warning system. This is further reinforced by the adjective terror, showing that the holiday homes were so bad they invoked feelings of fear within the writer. So you see that's a little bit more depth, and I'll explain what exactly I did in the answer and how you can build on this now. So the first thing is you've got to find a decent quote, if otherwise you're starting with a bit of a disadvantage. And a decent quote should have at least one big language technique. That's either a deforest or a go massive technique if your teacher teaches you through with these ways of remembering them. But it's just any kind of creative writing or descriptive writing techniques that you know of. Um, and they also need to have words that the writer has chosen to have a specific effect on the audience, that they've deliberately chosen these words to portray a certain feeling or emotion. Okay, these words tend to have connotations, which is another way of saying meanings, which adds a particular feeling towards the text. So the wind whipped against the house, for example. The word whipped there should kind of jump out at you in the page because whipped has particular connotations. It should conjure up feelings of pain and of pace and something quite violent. And the more you can explain that, the better. So always look out for the quotes that have a good, strong technique, but also those words that you can zoom in. And these always have to be appropriate to the question. So make sure that you're actually writing about, if they say, write about the house, you're mentioning only things about the house and you're not kind of deviating from that question because you can actually lose a lot of marks that way. Okay, when you analyze, you've got to do, at least three things. So first of all, you've got to find that really appropriate and strong quote. The second thing you need to do is explain the general effect of that technique before you kind of move into more depth, and that has to be related back to the question. The third thing you need to do is find significant words within that quote. Name the word class, and by word class, I mean is it a noun, a verb, adjective, and explain the effects of the word. That way, you'll be ticking off, quite a lot in the criteria. You'll be using an appropriate quote, which is a great mark. And then you'll be kind of using that technical language of metaphors, similes, but then also reinforcing that technical language with even further knowledge, demonstrating that you know the different word classes and how these words affect the general meaning of the text, which is really, really good for your answer. But to give a breakdown of the answer, the writer used a range of techniques portraying a negative view of the past holiday experiences. Okay, so I've used my general point kind of thing just to set up my answer. I've used my quote: "The memories of the holiday home is a whirlwind of terror." Now I'm trying to explain it. The use of the metaphor comparing the holiday to a whirlwind shows the holiday was a negative experience. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But I need to make that obvious, point before I can go into more depth. But I could have done a bit better there. So you could talk about that comparison, talk about what a whirlwind is, really, even though that's obvious. It's very deliberate why they've chosen that. So I'd expand that a bit more. But then I'd still go into more depth and I'd look at the words within that. So first of all, I found the noun whirlwind. This has connotations of an uncontrollable, destructive force of nature. Now, you might have a different interpretation of that, and that's absolutely fine. But as long as you're attempting to interpret it, then you will get those marks. It's really great if you find a quote that has multiple words that you can zoom in on like this. So I've put, this is further reinforced by the adjective terror, showing that the holiday homes were so bad they invoked feelings of fear within the writer. Now, this isn't a great answer. I wouldn't say it would get me, the top marks. I'd probably say it's about 4 or 5, probably on the 5 area. But as you can see, I'm trying to kind of make complete use of the quote, complete use of the techniques I've used, but also those words within there, rather than moving on to another quote. But there are times when using multiple quotes work. This is when you're talking about a recurring theme or idea, or when you want to discuss a semantic field. Okay. If you haven't come across a semantic field before, this is when the writers deliberately used words that are all kind of within the same kind of they all kind of portray similar feelings or emotions, or are related to a particular thing that sticks in the mind. So yeah, they're actually quite two similar things, but we'll have a look at what this looks like. So the black text there is what I was carrying on from the final bit that I was writing. But if I wanted to extend the answer, I might want to include that other quotes. So I've included two other references, that I find is similar. And it's all in yellow now. So a sense of horror is evident throughout the text, further supplemented with the nouns nightmare and the adjectives frightful. And instead of kind of going into repeating myself, I want to kind of add something new. So by saying that it's prevalent throughout the text, I want to kind of make a note of this. So I should actually have pointed out that this is constant throughout, and it creates a feeling of almost being overwhelmed by the writer's feelings of fear, which they associate with the memory of the holiday. So by saying that it's all the way throughout, saying, you can't quite escape this negative feeling, there's nothing good about it, and talk about how that makes you feel, as the reader, and your impression to the holiday. Okay, guys, finally, thank you for watching. If you did like it, please like and subscribe and check out Right On Resources, our partner channel, which has a lot of more in-depth English lessons. Okay, if I was going to give any kind of final advice to anybody who's sitting the upcoming resits, I would say always look at the amount of marks available and think about how much time you want to spend on it. So if it's a 12-mark question, and you feel like you've gone into enough depth, I'd probably say stop there. Don't go too much. But at the same time, judge it. Really think, have I made use of this quote that I found? Okay, good luck, guys. Hope the exams go well.